They told everyone I gave up. Said I quit something big to chase something small. They stopped asking questions. They started telling my story for me. But the truth was never loud. It was just waiting for the right moment to speak. If you believe in quiet strength, in stories that grow slowly but strike deep, subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes, the most powerful journeys are the ones no one saw coming. My name is Jenna Reed. I'm 31 years old. I live in a small apartment above a bookstore in Seattle. I make my own coffee. I pay my own bills. And apparently, I'm still the family disappointment. I was supposed to be a doctor, the smart one. The overachiever. The golden child. At least, until I wasn't. I dropped out of med school in my second year. It wasn't drugs, or drama, or scandal. Just burnout, pure and simple. The kind that hollowed me out from the inside. The kind no one noticed because I still smiled at Christmas dinner. When I left, my father didn't speak to me for months. My mother cried into a napkin and told everyone I was taking a break. My younger brother Jake moved on and quietly became the new pride of the family, finance degree, corner office, fiancé from a nice family. The whole package. And me? I started teaching tech basics to senior citizens in my neighborhood. For cash. For sanity. For something to do with my days. At first, it felt like failure. Then, it started to feel like purpose. What began as one-on-one lessons in coffee shops turned into group classes at the library. Then webinars. Then a prototype for an online platform. I called it Elderbright. Simple mission: help people over 60 stay connected in a digital world that keeps trying to leave them behind. We taught email. Video calls. Online banking. Digital safety. Even how to spot fake news before it spreads to every aunt on Facebook. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't a unicorn startup. But it was working. That week, I did a video call with a woman named Mrs. Given, 83 years old, 2 hip replacements, and enough sass to power a sitcom. It took us 40 minutes to set up her Zoom mic. She called me darling and muttered, "This machine hates me." But when it finally worked, and she saw her son's face on screen, a man who lived 3 states away, she gasped, hand over her mouth, and whispered, "You brought my baby into my living room." Moments like that don't make headlines. But they change lives. And that's what I built Elderbright for. Within 3 years, we had over 80,000 active users, several state-level partnerships, and a backlog of nonprofits begging us to expand into their communities. We were changing lives, one patient tutorial at a time. But to my family? I was doing some kind of online teaching thing. They never asked how it was going. They never once said they were proud. In their eyes, I had stepped off the golden path and wandered into the woods. It didn't matter that I'd built the path myself and lit the damn way for others to follow. Last month at Sunday dinner, my mother served roast beef and casually said to Jake's fiancé. Jake's always been the focused one. Jenna, well, she's more of a free spirit. I smiled politely. Cut my carrots. Didn't say a word. Because that's what disappointments do. We stay quiet. We stay polite. We stay invisible. But something was about to change. And it would all begin with a name I hadn't heard in years, spoken by someone who had no idea who I really was. Not yet. The irony was always sharp. I could build a platform for thousands of strangers to feel seen. But I couldn't get my own family to ask me a single real question. At Elderbright, we were in the middle of a major update, revamping our onboarding experience to make it even simpler for older users who'd never touched a keyboard. I had just finished a user test with a 76-year-old man who cried when he managed to FaceTime his granddaughter for the first time. He kept saying, "She thought I was gone. Now she can see I'm still here." That moment lit me up more than any funding announcement ever had. But when I mentioned it at family dinner the following weekend, my dad just grunted. Teaching old folks to click buttons. Real noble work. Jake chuckled under his breath. I let it slide. They didn't know that clicking buttons had turned into a full-stack educational platform, built on adaptive UX principles and a custom accessibility framework. They didn't know we were being piloted in 3 state-run community centers. They didn't know our monthly newsletter had a 78% open rate. They didn't know, because I never told them. Because when someone hands you a label like failure, you either fight to tear it off, or you wear it quietly, while building something too large for them to ignore. 2 weeks before Jake's engagement party, my inbox pinged. Subject line, Camilla C., testimonial submission. Camilla. Jake's fiancée. I clicked. It was a video, 90 seconds long, submitted through our Stories That Shine campaign, where users or their families could share how Elderbright had made a difference in their lives. In it, Camilla sat in a softly lit living room, holding the hand of a smiling older woman. This is my grandma, Margaret, she said. She lost my grandpa last spring, and it was a really lonely time for her. But thanks to Elderbright, she was able to stay in touch with all of us, video calls every week, even learned how to use online grocery apps. It gave her back some confidence. And it gave us, her. I froze. Camilla had no idea. She didn't connect the name. Didn't know Elderbright was my platform. She just knew it helped her family. I watched the video twice. Then a third time. At the very end, her grandmother looked straight into the camera and smiled. Her eyes crinkled, her voice soft but clear. Thank you, Jenna. You helped me feel human again. I sat back in my chair, blinking away tears. They didn't know. They still didn't know. That night, my mom called. Don't forget the engagement dinner is Saturday. We want everything perfect. I hesitated. Then said quietly. I'm not sure if I should come. I said. I'm not sure if I should come. She replied too quickly. Why wouldn't you? Because I'm not sure I belong. There was a beat of silence. Then she added. Just, don't talk about your website thing too much, okay? Camilla's family is very professional. Ivy League types. I nearly laughed. Got it, I said. No mention of buttons. She didn't catch the sarcasm. I hung up and stared out the window of my apartment, watching Seattle's lights blink in the rain. My mother had no idea her son's fiancé had thanked me, publicly, emotionally, for giving her grandmother a way to feel connected again. And I had no intention of saying a word about it. Not yet. Because sometimes, it's better to let the truth introduce itself. The week of the engagement party, I didn't touch the RSVP card. I knew they expected me to show up, smile politely, and stay in the corner like a faded photograph, still there, but easy to overlook. I told myself I'd go. For Camilla. For the grandmother who said I made her feel human again. Not for my family. At a cousin's barbecue a few days before the event, someone asked. So, still doing your little internet thing? I smiled. Nodded. Bit my tongue. My mom stood right there. Didn't correct them. Didn't say I had staff. Or users. Or state partnerships. She just offered them more potato salad. And I stood there, holding a paper plate, pretending I wasn't shrinking. Never again. Back at work, we finalized a partnership with the Washington State Library System. Elderbright would be piloted in 12 rural branches, places where seniors had more goats than broadband. It was real, impactful work. Meanwhile, at home, my mother was choosing napkin colors and emailing me photo references for appropriate dresses with a note. No black. No pantsuits. Something feminine this time. I stared at the message like it had teeth. My mother loved control, especially over women who refuse to be controlled. Friday, the day before the party, I met our new intern Jamie at a coffee shop. She was 19, brilliant, curious, asking all the right questions about UX for aging populations. Halfway through our chat, a woman at the next table leaned over. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but are you Jenna Reed? From Elderbright?" I blinked. "Yes." "Oh my gosh," she grinned. "My dad's been using your platform for months. He sends me memes now." "Memes?" I didn't even know he knew what a meme was. Jamie stared at me like I'd just sprouted a cape. "You didn't tell me people recognize you." "They usually don't," I said. But the truth was, it was starting. More emails. More testimonials. A podcast invite. A quiet buzz outside my family's narrow lens. I wasn't invisible. I was rising. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Camilla's video in my head, the way she looked at her grandmother. The sincerity in her voice. She didn't know me. But she had trusted something I built, something born from pain, failure, and reinvention. And that trust? It was pure. Earned. Undeniable. Unlike the love I kept trying to earn from people who refused to see me. At 3 a.m., I got out of bed and pulled out a dress. Not black. Not a pantsuit. Dark emerald green. Sleeveless. Clean lines. Elegant. Simple. Mine. I packed Camilla's testimonial video onto a USB drive, not to show, just to carry. A quiet reminder that sometimes, the waves we create go farther than we ever imagined. Reaching people we've never met. And pulling back the ones who thought we'd disappeared. The restaurant was all glass and gold, the kind of place where the lighting was dim on purpose and the bread came with truffle butter. I arrived 10 minutes early. I always do. My mother looked surprised when she saw me. "Oh. You came. You asked me to," I said. "Well. I'm glad." She wasn't. I could see it in her eyes. The tight smile. The glance at my dress, like it was one shade too bold, 1 inch too defiant. Then she gestured toward the far end of the table. "Just there, Jenna. That corner seat is perfect." I walked over and sat quietly. Just like always. A few minutes later, she stood and raised her wine glass. "Jake's always been the focused one," she said with pride. "Jenna, well, she's more of a free spirit. Not everything works out, I suppose." A soft chuckle rippled through the table. I stayed still. Calm. I didn't say a word. And then, it happened. Camilla, radiant and confident, stood at the front of the room, microphone in hand. She looked around the guests, scanning faces. Her eyes landed on mine. She tilted her head, eyebrows narrowing. "You're Jenna Reed?" The room shifted. A few forks paused. My mother glanced up. "The CEO?" Camilla added. Now the silence grew. Thick. Focused. I looked back at her. "Yes," I said quietly. Camilla blinked in disbelief. "You're the Jenna Reed who founded Elderbright?" My mother froze. My father looked up from his plate. Chairs stopped moving. Camilla stepped forward, holding the mic tightly. "Oh my God, my grandma used Elderbright every day until she passed. You helped her video call our family every Sunday. You gave us more time with her." A murmur spread across the table. "I submitted a video to your campaign," Camilla said, her voice trembling slightly. "I had no idea it was you." I smiled gently. "I know," I said. "I saw it. It meant a lot." Camilla turned to the rest of the room, her voice steady but full of emotion. "I don't think you all understand, this woman built a national program from scratch. She's been featured on NPR. On Forbes. She's changing lives. Aunt Linda gasped. Uncle Joe shifted in his seat. My father looked down into his wine. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. No words came. Camilla continued. My grandmother never thought of herself as smart, Camilla said softly. But once she started using Elderbright, she'd call me every week just to say, look what I learned today. She passed away last month, but those calls? Those were gold. This woman gave us that. She sat down slowly, still stunned. Jake leaned toward me, his voice low and uncertain. I didn't know. I looked at him and replied calmly. You never asked. Silence settled again, but this time, it wasn't cold. It was reverent. The rest of the night passed under a strange new light. People whispered, not behind my back, but toward me. Some leaned in to say how impressive my work was. Toasts shifted. Jenna's work suddenly became part of the celebration. My mother sat stiff and silent for most of it, as if trying to recalibrate the narrative in real time. She didn't speak much. And for the first time in a very long while, I didn't feel like the footnote. I felt like the headline. Not because I demanded it. Not because I interrupted. But because the truth walked into the room on its own. And refused to stay quiet. The next morning, I woke up with a strange quiet in my chest. It wasn't pride. It wasn't revenge. It was something deeper. Like the sound of a door finally closing, without a slam. My phone buzzed. A message from Jake. I'm sorry I never asked. Simple. No excuses. No emojis. I stared at it for a long time. Then slowly turned the screen face down. Later that afternoon, my mom called, twice. I didn't answer. Not out of spite. I just didn't want to give her the chance to make it smaller than it was. Not this time. That night, I walked down to the pier. The air was crisp, laced with salt and pine. The world felt suspended, like something had cracked open quietly. And the light was still deciding how far to reach. I thought of Camilla's face when she made the connection. Not just recognition, but reverence. Not for fame. But for impact. For meaning. And I thought about all the years I spent shrinking. Because I believed their silence meant I wasn't enough. But now? Now I knew better. 2 days later, a letter arrived. Real paper. Handwritten. From my mother. Dear Jenna. I watched the video Camilla sent me. I cried. Not because I didn't know what you'd built. But because I realized I never bothered to ask. I was so focused on what you walked away from. That I never looked at what you were walking toward. You did what no one in this family ever had the courage to do. You failed and kept going. And in doing that, you taught people how to find their voice again. Including me. Love. Mom. I read it 3 times. Then folded it slowly and placed it beside my desk. Not framed. Not displayed. Just kept. Because this time, I didn't need to hang proof on the wall. I was living it every day. That weekend, I gave a keynote at a small community tech conference. No cameras. No national press. Just 60 people in a rec center auditorium, most of them holding notebooks and hope. I stood at the front, the mic slightly wobbly, the projector buzzing faintly behind me. And I told them the truth. I was never supposed to be here. I was supposed to be someone else. A doctor. The smart one. But life had other plans, and eventually, I stopped arguing with them. When the room stood to applaud, I didn't cry. But I did smile. Not the polite kind. The kind that reaches your spine. The kind that says, I made it. And I didn't need permission. 3 months later, Camilla asked me to lunch. Not as Jake's sister. As Jenna. The founder. The woman who built something from the ashes and dared to call it beautiful. We met at a sunlit cafe in Capitol Hill. She was already seated, smiling, a notebook half open beside her coffee. I've been thinking, she said. There's a foundation I volunteer with. They fund social impact startups, especially those led by women. I showed them your work. She slid the notebook toward me. Inside, notes. Numbers. Potential connections. If you're ready to scale, she said. I think we can help. I didn't blink. You don't owe me anything. She shook her head. This isn't about debt. It's about belief. You gave something to my grandmother I never could. I just want to see where else your light can reach. And for once, I let someone believe in me, without flinching. That summer, Elderbright launched its first nationwide campaign. We called it Digital Dignity. Workshops in public libraries. Training hubs in community centers. Free programs for veterans and underserved seniors. We hit 250,000 users. One morning, I got an email from a 92-year-old woman in Montana. Your platform helped me apply for a passport online. I'm flying to see my great-granddaughter next month. I've never flown before. Thank you for giving me that first step. I sat with that message for a long time. Not as validation, but as a reminder. Every quiet effort matters. At Jake and Camilla's wedding, I wore a navy jumpsuit. No one blinked. No one whispered. No one asked if I had anything more appropriate. My mother introduced me to her friends as my daughter Jenna. She runs a national nonprofit. The label wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Later that evening, while people clinked glasses and passed around shrimp skewers, she pulled me aside, a glass of white wine in hand, eyes slightly damp. You always walked your own way, she said softly. I used to think that meant you were lost. Now I see, you were just walking ahead. We didn't hug. But we stood beside each other longer than we ever had. And that felt like enough. That night, under a canopy of fairy lights, I stood alone, watching the crowd sway to soft music. Jake walked over, hands in his pockets, a little nervous. Camilla tells me you've been invited to speak at Google. That true? Next month, I said. He smiled, tilting his head. You going to brag about being my sister? I laughed. You going to brag about being mine? He grinned. We clinked glasses. And just like that, the past loosened its grip. 2 weeks after the wedding, I mailed Jake and Camilla a small package. Inside was a handwritten note and a USB drive. On the drive was a custom-built version of Elderbright, fully personalized for the assisted living facility where Camilla's grandmother had spent her final years. Lifetime access. No fees. Full tech support. There was no press release. No credit. Just a note that said, some connections outlive misunderstanding. Thank you for helping mine find her voice. The next morning, Camilla called. She didn't speak right away. Just breathed through the tears. Then whispered. You didn't have to. I smiled. I know. That's why I did. Back home, I printed out a quote and taped it to my fridge. They'll tell everyone you failed. Until one day, they ask how you did it. No signature. No bitterness. Just truth. And beneath it, my reflection in the fridge door. Smiling. Solid. Seen. Because this time, the light wasn't coming from anyone else. It was mine all along. A few days later, I received a letter from a high school in Oregon. One of their seniors had used Elderbright to help her grandfather learn how to navigate a smartphone. He now sends her a good morning text every day. She ended her note with, "You didn't just build a platform. You built bridges." Sometimes people ask me what success feels like. It's not applause. It's not headlines. It's a trembling 83-year-old whispering, "You brought my baby into my living room." It's a grieving granddaughter recognizing you across a dinner table. It's a letter from your mother that arrives a decade late, but right on time. It's quiet, but deep, and lasting. And it's yours. So if you're still here, reading this, feeling something stir inside, know this. You're not alone. Whether you're starting over, walking away, or just learning how to speak your story, your journey matters. And one day, they won't ask why you quit. They'll ask how you rose. Thank you for being part of this story. And if it stirred something in you, drop a comment, share your thoughts. Because your voice might be the bridge someone else is waiting to cross. Until next time, stay grounded, stay kind, and remember, your story is still unfolding.